Alright? Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash.
I give double honors to the apostles of greatness and through well. Salutations to the men of the hope and sincere elect. You know, the brother Kalab, brother Yatizak, brother Quara, myself, Makiza, and we are out here through the Spirit of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Alright? And the topic today will be, teach your own children. Because the thing with Jake actually, they're lazy. So Jake don't really deal with, bringing up a child. Alright? So they allow Esau to do it for them. Because when they have a child, they would allow the child just to grow up however they want. As the scripture says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. But the word of correction drives it away. So if you allow a child to grow up being a child, they're going to just grow up doing all sorts of foolishness. But guess what? While you are allowing your child to find their own way, the enemy teaching your child. Alright? Via the TV shows, when they go to school, Esau indoctrinating them and bringing them up to how he want them to make the ideal slave, the ideal servant. And when you think it's time to train your own child, it's too late, because the so-called white man don't already saturated their mind with his philosophies. Alright? Go back.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 49 and verse 9. He said right now Jake's lazy. Genesis chapter 49 and verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey my son thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion, as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up?
God, who shall rouse him up? Because back then when in the Black Panther movement, Jake was rising up. So I think it's Shadi say read the books my father read. The song Shadi, you gotta be bad, you gotta be tough, you gotta be wiser. In that song she said, read the books my father read. So basically, hey, do the things that your foreparents did. Alright? So that you could know who you are. Alright? We'll read this precept here real quick. It says Joel chapter 1 verse 3. It says, tell ye your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and let their children another generation. So you're supposed to be teaching your own children. Alright? You're not supposed to allow the enemy to teach your child. You're supposed to teach your own. Alright? Don't just let a child sit in front of the TV and learn all kind of foolishness to fill up their mind with all sorts of philosophies of the wicked. Alright? When you could teach your child about this word, about their history, and about their future, so that they could know who they are. Alright? Because think about it. If you grew up in this world, as a Gentile, and then learning that you're a Hebrew Israelite, think about you teaching your child that he's a Hebrew Israelite. Guess what? Soon and very soon, we say he was here for a while. Guess what? Esau couldn't plague our minds with wickedness anymore, because we will be gaining our heritage. But if you allow the so-called white man to teach your children, guess what? Then you just continue in a lifelong cycle of raising niggers.
Right.
Right, good.
Last precept here.
Yeah, come.
This is Proverbs 22 and verse 6. It said, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Train up your child in the way that he must go. You train your child. Don't let anybody else train your child. Don't say, well, you don't have time. When they go to school, they will get you. Nah. Because when you go to school, they're teaching your child to the curriculum that the so-called white man set up. Because guess what? The schooling system that your child will receive is not the same that the other nations will receive. Alright? They're teaching their children how to be masters, and they're teaching your child how to be a servant. Alright? And guess what? We are kings. So we have to teach our children to basically to gain integrity and to maintain it. Alright? Because guess what? When Esau would go and teach them history. But guess what? He wouldn't teach them the true history. So then therefore, if you know the true history, you go and teach your children. Teach your children the truth. You go and search out the truth so that you can teach your children. You're supposed to be teaching your own child. Alright? The reason why Esau make homeschooling illegal is because why? They want to control what your child knows. Just like what they're doing with the Native Americans. Alright? when they conquer, then they put the children in re-education centers. All right, to train up your children to their standards. All right.
Precept.
Go ahead.
Ephesians 6 and verse 1, it says, children, obey your parents in Yahweh, for this is right. It says, honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise.
Yeah, so the children are supposed to obey their parents. Obey their parents in the Lord. So guess what? You're teaching your children, you read and Deuteronomy. You're supposed to teach your children of the fear of the Most High. Alright? Just like it have Sunday schools, guess what? You're supposed to be teaching your own child. Don't let a stranger teach your child. You train your child how you would want your child to grow. Because when you train your child to be the better version of you.
That's right.
Alright? Not to be the better version of somebody else. That when your child grows up, you can hardly recognize your child or you see as another man or another woman. The fathers are supposed to be training their sons and the mothers are supposed to be training their daughters. But now, you have the TV training them. Alright, the daughters growing up, they don't even know how to wash themselves good. Alright? They don't know how to take care of themselves. They can't cook. They don't know how to take care of their man. Because why? Because you are allowing the media to teach your children. And you're not doing that. The woman don't lost the natural instincts. How to be women. Go ahead.
There is Deuteronomy 6. Start at verse 1. He said, no, these are the commandments, the statutes and judgments which the Lord Yahweh, your power, commanded to teach you, that he might do them in the land whether he go to possess it. Right? See, he said that thou mightest fear the Lord Yahweh, thy power, to keep all his statutes and commandments, which I command thee, thou and thy sons sons, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged.
Yeah, so it says what? Thou and thy sons. The scripture says, teach thy sons and thy sons' sons. Because guess what? If we was teaching our children, we would not have forgotten that we were Hebrew Israelites and start adopting the customs of the other nations. We would have maintained those ways. But guess what? We trimmed our ways to seek love. And we send them to school, you understand, to get so-called education. But the so-called white man does not seek your best interest. He seeks his best interest. Alright? So don't get caught up with all those smooth words.
I can say something because when the scripture says the wisdom of this world is foolishness, right? Because hey, what the school system them teaching, what the school system them teaching now? Homosexuality and all these things. That's how they teach now.
And guess what? They do it from what? From a young age. They teach the children that at a very young age, from 5 years. So they're training up your child. You understand?
So as the brother say, no, we are the groom, we own children in the way of Yahweh Shem Yoshai. Right? Because verse 7, Deuteronomy 6, verse 7, he said, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. So you gotta teach them. As I say, there's that sometimes, you spend all day with the kids, go through the scriptures with them, teach them the way of Yahweh Shem Yoshai. Because as Esau, he teaching them, that, we servants, we not servants, right? We the Most High trend. The Most High choose Israel. We are kings. So you have to teach a trend so they'll be in that mindset as kings. To worship Yahweh Shem Yoshai, right? So Esau teaching them through the media, through this, through television and all these things, and majority of the children are learning so fast out of the tablets. Right, and these phones, right? So you gotta groom your training the way of your Shem Yoshai. So when you get old, you will not depart from it. You remember we father teach him. Right? That's why the scripture says, groom thy training the way of your Shem Yoshai. So when you reach that age, he will not depart from it, because this way he was being taught from a young age. Now Esau teaching these training, and Esau teach all the training, and he teaching all the training wickedness. He teaching them how to be transgenderites and all these things, all these wickedness.
Read this, because we say we're supposed to teach our children, our children's children, all right? Because guess what? When we teaching our children in Sunday schools, we teaching them, in our mind, we teaching them about other nations, but not knowing that we teaching them about ourselves. They're supposed to know who they are, all right? You're not supposed to be reading about an incident and think and apply it to somebody else when in fact it's speaking about you. It says Joshua chapter 4 verse 21, and he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what meaneth these stones? These are the stones that they told them to take out of the Jordan when they crossed over to Jericho. It says, then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahweh Shem Yahushai, your God, dried up the waters of Jordan before you until ye were passed over, as Yahweh Shem Yahushai did to the Red Sea, when he dried up before us until we were gone over. So you're supposed to be teaching your children about who they are, teaching about the history. Alright? Whatever knowledge you desire your child to know, you teach your child. Don't let the so-called white man do it. Because when you think the so-called white man seeking your best interest, guess what? The Most High put us in the know. Alright? The 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage over us, for we are not ignorant to his devices. We're not ignorant to the devices of the so-called white man, because he always used cunning craftiness, alright, to deceive the heart of the simple. Alright? That is why you see men growing up to be homosexuals, and women growing up to be more masculine. Alright? And being bugged out and bucking up against the men, because of the teaching of the so-called white man teaching about democracy and about equal rights. Guess what? That is distorting the natural course of nature. Alright? Go ahead.
As I'm here for you. Proverbs 23 and verse 26. It says, my son, give me thine heart, and let thine ears observe my ways. It says, verse 25, it says, thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bear thee shall rejoice. Jumping up to 24, it says, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begotteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Verse 22, it says,
it says, he that begotteth a wise child shall have joy in him. Understand? Because he saw what he did. He saw about the child that he raised up. He saw about the child that he raised up. Understand, go ahead?
It says, verse 22, it says, hearken unto thy father that begot thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. That is it.
Gone. That's a mark. Gone. Go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, and verse 5. It says, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. And that right there going into the cycle of reincarnation. You know, after the third and fourth generation, you come back to the loins of your fathers. You know, so you having a son teaching your son, you're actually teaching yourself. Because after the third and fourth generation, you yourself going to come back. Because the Most High visiting, alright, the iniquities of the fathers to the third and fourth generation. You know, so when you teach your son, you teach your children, you're keeping that knowledge within the nation. You know, and the next precept here, in the book of Sirach, chapter 7, and verse 23, says, hast thou children? Instruct them, and bow down their neck from their youth.
You bow down their neck. You understand? But they say you have to be sure what you teaching your child. To back you up with that, I have here Ecclesiasticus chapter 26 verse 19. My son, keep the flower of thy age sown, and give not thy strength to strangers, because your children are supposed to be your strength. And if you give your children unto strangers, then you're going to hear the strangers raise your child to be wherever they want them to be. It says, when thou hast gotten a fruitful possession to all the field, sow it with thy own seed. And that seed come out with your knowledge. Sow it with your own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock. So when you teach your child of your knowledge, you know exactly what your child growing up to be. But when you let somebody else teach your child, you have no idea what manner of child is going to grow up to be. It says, so thy race which thou leavest shall be magnified, having confidence in their good descent. So when you die, you know that, hey, you know, I did well, I taught my son well, so I know my son will continue my legacy. But then when you let your son go to school and to these college, you don't know what manner of... Guess what? You might be a God-fearing person, You know, somebody that always in the Bible. But then when you let the so-called white man teach your child, and your child grow up, you know, go to college, then your child gonna come back and tell you he's an atheist because he did science, and then science proved that it have no God. So then your child start out believing in the Most High, but then finish off not believing because why? Because you didn't maintain that teaching. You allow the enemy to teach your child and infiltrate. As the scripture said, they planted tares among the wheat. They planted false knowledge among the knowledge that you taught. And I stand a little level in the whole lump.
But it have a precept, you know. We was saying, you know, when you teach your child, you know, and he grow up, you know, under you, you know, and you die, you know, come like, you know, that teaching live on, you know, come like, you know, he wasn't dead. You know, I can't remember the precept, you know.
Still them guys in Sirach 30.
Sirach 30.
Can.
You have it?
Yeah.
Can. Yeah.
What I was going to say is, brother mentioned that is your strength. Your children is your strength. And even these dogs know that. Alright, these heathen nations, they know that their children is their strength. Hence, you reason in Psalm 73 and verse 4, it says, "For there are no bonds in their death, but their strength is firm." Alright, because these elites, they be teaching their children. When they have sons, they teach their children, hey, don't marry outside of this family. You know, keep the marriage within, they teach their children so that the riches ain't go out there to no peasants. You know, the riches go stay within their family. You understand? So your children is your strength. So just as the dogs, the saying goes in the world, don't make dogs smarter than you. You know? The dogs teaching their children, so you teach your children too in righteousness. You know? So the knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem El Shai will stay within them, which is righteousness, and righteousness is going to exalt our nation. You know?
The Psalms? The Psalms 132 verse 12. He said, "If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon the throne forever."
Because when you learn from the Most High, you're going to teach your sons. So your sons are going to grow up in the knowledge of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and then they're going to grow up, you know, fearing the Most High and teach their children also. You understand? They're going to teach their children to be exactly like them, and better versions of themselves. You understand? Better versions of themselves. You have something to say?
Yeah. This is Proverbs 1 and verse 8. It says, "My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother." It says, "For there shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck." It says, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not." Alright? It says, "If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us look privily for the innocent, without cause, let us swallow them up alive as a grave, and whole as those that go down to the pit. We shall find all precious substance, we shall fill our whole houses with spoil." It says, "Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse." It says, "My son, walk not thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path."
And he was teaching his son. This is Proverbs 4:1. "Hear ye children the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding, for I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, Let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandment, and live." So you have to learn from your father, not from the other nations, not from a stranger. Alright, you're supposed to learn from your own. Alright, hey, guess what? The men of Great Millstone, alright, we are children to the apostles. So the apostles are our fathers. Alright, let me prove that real quick. This is Ecclesiasticus. Boom, 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 boom. No, that is night. You know the scripture is
Jordan as fathers.
yeah, with the elders. I think that's 17, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, it's saying that, guess what? You're supposed to, you know, to fear them. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 7, verse 27. It says, "Honor thy father with thy whole heart, and forget not the sorrows of thy mother. Remember that thou wast begotten of them, and how thou canst not recompense them for the things that they have done for thee." It says, "Fear Yahweh Hashem Yahushai with all thy soul, and reverence his priests." So the priests are the most who? The apostles. It says, love him that made thee with all thy strength and forsake not his ministers. Alright, so the apostles are the ministers of the Lord, and they're also our fathers, spiritual fathers. So we through the Spirit supposed to learn from them and not mingle the doctrine that we've been taught from them. And the scripture said in 1 Timothy that you learn, that you teach no other things. We learn from them and not learn from these other groups, so that we grow up and we're gonna be an image of the apostles. You understand? We're gonna be an image of the apostles. Alright, the battery going on, so let me finish up quick.
The Proverbs 6 verse, start at verse 20. He said, my son, keep thy father's commandment and forsake not the law of thy mother. He said, bind them continually upon thine heart and tie them about thy neck. Right? He said, when thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandments is the lamp, and the law is light.
Yeah, it can, because guess what? We teach you in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai.
Can.
So you're supposed to teach your children about the laws so that when they grow up, they're gonna walk, in that straight path. Alright?
Yeah.
There's some quickly, that's our one piece of here before we can close off with
I
that.
had one piece of.
Because
I
yeah,
think
the battery
Bob.
gonna cut off.
This is Proverbs 2:1. My son, if thou will receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, it says, so that thou will incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thy heart to understanding. I jump down to verse 5. It says, then shalt thou understand the fear of Yahweh, and find the fear of Yahweh, alright, and find the knowledge of power. It says, for Yahweh giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. It says, he laid up song wisdom for the righteous, he is a buckler to them that walk uprightly.
Can. That's something? Alright, you read that and then I'll read this last precept.
1 Timothy 5:1. Rebuke not an elder, but treat him as a father.
Can treat him as a father. So the apostles are our spiritual fathers. So we're supposed to learn from them and only from them.
That's right.
Not mingle the doctrine that they taught with anything else. And I'm currently been doing that. Alright, is the final precept here? This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 30 verse 1. It says, he that loveth his son causeth him oft to feel the rod, and that he may have joy over him in the end. He that chasteneth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice in him among his acquaintances. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and that way he sort of want us to do homeschooling because they are grieving him. We're not growing up to according to his will. And before his friends he shall rejoice in him. Though his father die, yet it is as though he were not dead, because you leave an image of yourself. For he had left one behind that is like himself. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him, and when he died, he was not sorrowful. He left behind him an avenger against his enemies, and one that shall require kindness to his friends.
That's right.
Right.
Alright,
Yeah.
and that is how we're supposed to teach your sons.
Can.
Alright, so you Negroes that things are need to teach your own children. Stop sending them to these churches to learn. You learn from the apostles of Great Millstone, and guess what? And they will grow up in the right way.
Can.
So with that,
Right.
I want to give our praises
To
and
Yahweh,
glory to
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Rakakodash.
We give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone through well. Salutations to the men of the Hope Land Saints Select. This is brother from the train that camp saying Shalom.
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 Shalom.